So, well, firstly, long time no see. I filmed a lot of videos at Laos about installing garam and making activated carbon, but I think it's been a while since we've seen face-to-face like this, right? So firstly, welcome back. I'm talking to myself, of course. Okay, so yesterday I came back from Laos. Was it a meaningful experience? Definitely. Did the purifiers work successfully and as planned? No. You may see from the last video that, you may think after seeing the last video that garam and all of the installed purifiers were a success. And I would say that's only about half true, because really we have about two problems. Well, the first problem is there's a lot of organic matter and organic compounds that we didn't account for when designing the purifier. That's mainly because we weren't able to conduct a sample analysis and we weren't able to evaluate the sample. That was because we couldn't receive the sample beforehand. We were only able to get our hands on it about 2 weeks prior to, not even 2 weeks, a week prior to the expedition itself. So we weren't really able to do any tests or conduct any experiments on what types of impurities were in the water. And so we made our purifier based on our former evaluations and analyses that the former sample, or last year's sample, contained heavy metals and bacteria, or, well, bacteria is, we knew there'd be bacteria because any source of water, especially in an environment where it's warm, humid, and whether it's warm and humid, is going to have bacteria in it. So we knew we were going to have to expect bacteria. But other than that, the only impurity that we found last year was heavy metals. And indeed, this year, heavy metals were also present, and we introduced activated carbon filters to combat heavy metals, and they work great. I tested with the ICP. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering where I am right now, I'm at a really big company in Korea. It's called KCC, and I thought they only specialized in windows and sliding doors, but it turns out they not specialize, but they're a really general company that has their roots spread to most industries and most research and development technologies. So they work with fibers, they work with coatings, paintings. They work with coatings, they work with fibers, they work with plastics and molecular chemistry, they work with environment, they work with treating factory, toxic water produced from factories. So they have a lot of different fields, but anyway, I'm an intern here for the day. Not for the day, but for the week. So yeah, I'm an intern here for the week. Anyway, so back to my point. So we found that organic matter is another problem. Now, why then was it not filtered at the microscopic stage? Because we obviously had 0.1. We obviously had a micromembrane that had the pore size of 0.1 micrometers. Why did it not filter the polymers out? Well, simply put, I wouldn't say we're unlucky. I would say we lacked preparation. But what basically happened was, and this is also a prediction because we were not able to test, we're not able to conduct specific tests that can accurately tell us where the organic compounds came from or how big they are. But the most likely hypothesis we have right now is that the organic compounds that were in the water as impurities were small enough to bypass the micromembrane filter, but still large enough that they wouldn't be trapped inside uh, the structure of the AC filter. So that would mean it would have a particle size of about 50, about 50 nanometers. That would be how big that is. So very small, obviously, but still not small enough for the AC filter to catch. So we have a couple of solutions. The most basic solution that I think of is adding sand and gravel. Adding a sand and gravel filter between the AC filter and the membrane filter. That way, sand and gravel can catch particles that are smaller, that are larger than the ones caught in the AC filter. So hopefully that's going to be able to filter out the organic compounds that are found in the water. How do we test that? Well, I have to go back to my school, I guess, because it is pretty damn far, but I have to go back to my school, and because the water samples are there, of course, and get the samples, make a gravel filter at home, test it, and bring it back here to KCC, where they can test it with their ICP and their TOC devices. A TOC is total organic carbon. So what that is it calculates the total amount of organic carbon that's in water, in a certain sample of water. And why that's important is because almost all organic compounds have carbon in it. So if you can just calculate how much carbon is in a body of water, then you can tell how much organic matter is in that body of water, or at least that's how I understand the system works. But yeah, so for the most part, that's our plan so far. Okay, and then what do we do? Yeah, and then I'm gonna have to make an extra trip to Laos to install the purifiers myself. Yeah, and also, I said there were two problems. That's the first problem. We found organic chemicals. Problem number two is the water smells. You might not get what that means, but what that basically means is it smells like, let's say, actually, it's fairly obvious. I don't even need a situation or a comparison for this. It's really simple. We used plastic buckets. Plastic containers that were really, really big. We found them at Laos, and that wouldn't be a problem if those plastic containers were clean. Problem is, Laos is a third world country, and most plastic bottles or plastic buckets or plastic containers that are created in third world countries and most plastic bottles or containers that are created in third world countries don't tend to be the most clean. So then we have a problem, because that means that plastic container was created with reused plastic. And also reused plastic is a big of a problem, but the reason it's become a problem and the reason my water smells like plastic is because reused plastics don't get assorted. So that means that polypropylene and PET or PLA or PETG or PVA or PVC, all of that gets mixed into one big pot. They stir it, and then they make plastic containers. And there is no way I know that's going to be clean. So two problems. One, I have to add a sand and gravel filter between the membrane and the AC filter. And number two, I have to change the containers to something clean, hopefully something from Korea. But yeah, so those two are the problems that we encountered. But then again, it's also quite optimistic if you change your perspective, because even though we didn't succeed this time, now that we've taken in the organic compounds as a factor, that means we've just increased our capabilities of purifying water. So that means in the future we can purify more more sources and different sources of water, as long as all the impurities in that source of water are limited to organic chemicals, heavy metals, and bacteria. We're able to completely filter out all three. That is the conclusion. And yeah, what did I learn from the expedition? Well, simply put, I would say that nothing is a failure if you hang on to it long enough. So hopefully I